The fairy tale Rapunzel is well known and has been a favourite bedtime story for generations. It was famously recorded by the Brothers Grimm and published in 1812 as part of the children's household tales. The tale we are familiar with has been changed over the years, mostly edited to be suitable for children, but the real tale of Rapunzel is much darker. The tale begins with a lonely couple who long for a child, but for years were unable to have one. Eventually the wife fell pregnant and began to experience cravings for the Rapunzel, a root vegetable, Campanula rapunculus, that she sees growing in the high-walled garden belonging to the sorceress who lived close by. So powerful was this craving that the wife refused to eat anything else and began to slowly waste away. Fearing for her life, one night her husband breaks into the garden to get some of the vegetables for her. When he returns, she makes a salad out of it and eats it, but it was not enough, and she longed for more. The husband returns to the garden to steal some more, but as he scales the wall to return home, the sorceress catches him and accuses him of theft. Fearing for his life, he begs for mercy, and she agrees to be merciful, allowing him to take all the Rapunzel he wants, on the condition that upon the birth of his baby, it was to be given to her. Desperate and with little other choice, he agrees. On the very day of the child's birth, the sorceress came to claim what was promised. The mother wept and pleaded, but her pleas fell upon deaf ears. The sorceress took the baby girl to raise as her own, and named her Rapunzel, after the vegetable her mother craved. Rapunzel grows up to be a beautiful child with long golden hair. When she turns 12, the sorceress locks her up in a tower in the middle of the woods, with neither stairs nor a door, and only one room and one window. In order to visit, the sorceress stands at the bottom of the tower and calls out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair, that I may climb thy golden stair." Rapunzel remained alone in the tower for years after, before one day when a prince rode through the forest and heard Rapunzel singing from the tower. Entranced by her delicate voice, he searched for her and eventually discovers the tower, but is unable to find an entry. The prince returned every day to listen to her beautiful singing, and one day sees the sorceress visit her as usual and learns how to gain access. After the sorceress had gone, the prince stood at the base of the tower and called, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair, that I may climb thy golden stair." Rapunzel let down her hair, and the prince climbed up, and they fell in love. The prince would visit Rapunzel every day, always waiting for the sorceress to leave, and regularly engaging in sexual intercourse. He eventually asks her to marry him. She agrees, and the two begin to plan a means of escape. Every night the prince would bring Rapunzel a piece of silk that she gradually weaved into a ladder. But before this ladder was finished, the sorceress noticed Rapunzel's dress getting tighter, and thus discovered her pregnancy. In anger, the sorceress cuts off Rapunzel's hair and casts her out into the wilderness to fend for herself. When the prince calls that night, the sorceress lets the severed hair down to haul him up. To his horror, he finds himself meeting her instead of Rapunzel, who is nowhere to be found. After she tells him in a rage that he will never see Rapunzel again, she pushes him from the tower, and he lands in a thorn bush growing at the base of the tower. Although it breaks his fall and saves his life, it scratches his eyes and blinds him. As he had been pushed, he had been able to grab the severed hair, which came loose and fell alongside him. The sorceress was left trapped in the tower to slowly starve to death. For years after, the prince wandered through the wastelands of the country and eventually comes to the wilderness, where Rapunzel now lives with the twins to whom she has given birth to, a boy and a girl. Every day Rapunzel would sing for her lost love, and the prince hears her voice and follows it until they are reunited. When they fall into each other's arms, Rapunzel's tears fall into the prince's eyes and immediately restores his sight. He then leads her and their twins to his kingdom, where they live happily ever after. The inspiration for the fairy tale may have been taken from the classical Greek myth of the hero Perseus, whose mother was confined in a bronze tower by her own father, Acrisius, the king of Argos, to prevent her from becoming pregnant, as it was foretold by the oracle at Delphi that she would bear a son who would kill his grandfather. Other claims of inspiration may have come from the story of Saint Barbara of Nicomedia, who is said to have been a beautiful woman who was confined to a tower by her father to hide her away from suitors. While in the tower, she is said to have converted to Christianity and be ultimately martyred for her faith after a series of miracles delaying her execution. Despite the unknowing of where the fairy tale had its origins, Rapunzel remains a popular story which has inspired countless movies and books, and will likely be as popular for many years to come.